Just look what kind of pictures this camera can take. This is the Hasselblad that everybody knows. 6 by 6 centimeter medium format camera with interchangeable lenses, with interchangeable backs. This was introduced in 1957. There's one challenge with this camera though. The body is reasonably long, and it means that putting a wide-angle lens into this body is a bit challenging. Typically, a wide-angle lens is easier to implement if you can mount it really close to the film. Now, there are a handful of iconic lens designs in the world, and one of those iconic lenses is called a Biogon. Now, Biogon has 8 lenses in 5 groups. Why is that important? I have no clue, but it makes me feel like I know something about something. The first lens, branded as Biogon, was developed already before the war, 1934, by a gentleman named Ludwig Bertele. Ludwig Bertele. And then in 1951 he designed a wide-angle version of the Biogon lens for Carl Zeiss. Now at that time Hasselblad was already designing this camera, but it has not been launched yet. And they wanted to use that wide-angle lens with their new system. But as I explained, it is challenging because of the long body. So then in 1954, before the launch of this camera, they launched this. The first version until 1956 was called a Supreme Wide-Angle Camera. Supreme. A supreme leader. Hasselblad Super Wide. Now this camera has the newly developed Biogon wide-angle lens. And as you can see, the body is significantly shorter, allowing Hasselblad to mount the Biogon lens directly to the body and still use the same modular design with the backs. However, you can't change the lens. The lens is permanently mounted. And this camera really is nothing but the lens and the shutter. Actually, it was originally sold without the film back and even without the viewfinder. Basically just a lens. This camera was introduced in 1954, and the last one, to my knowledge, was built in 2009. So that is a pretty long stint for basically the same camera. In the era of consumer electronics, where everything is old if it is 2 months old, it's kind of marvelous. Shows that it is a special camera. By the way, my camera is from the year 1966. So super wide, it is really about the lens. It's a f4.5, 91 degrees, 38 millimeters in a medium format, would be comparable to about 21 millimeter wide-angle lens in a standard 35 millimeter camera. But what makes this so special is that even though it is a wide-angle lens, the pictures don't look like they were taken with a wide-angle lens. Why? Because there is practically no distortion, there's no vignetting, and it is really sharp even when shot wide open. These 3 factors, sharpness, no vignetting, no distortion, had made this a very usable camera for aerial photography, for mapping, and for all kind of scientific purposes. Hey, but enough about the history. So what do I think about a super wide? There are a few challenges, but overall it takes pictures like no other camera. So what are the challenges? First of all, the viewfinder is really not that good. The viewfinder shows everything really distorted, almost like if you are viewing something through a bottom of a bottle. But it is good enough for composing and it's accurate enough. So I've learned to live with it. It also has a spirit level here. So when you are composing your picture and looking at it like this, you can see the spirit level and make sure that your horizon is leveled. It is really handy for landscape photography. And then the second challenge is that you need to estimate the distance like if this was a cheap point and shoot camera. But hey, even though this sounds bad, it is not as bad as you might think in reality. Because this is a wide angle lens, the sharp area, the focus area is really deep and it is really easy to get focused pictures. So let me show you. So for example, if your aperture is 11, and then it means that your focus area is from 1.2 meters all the way to infinity. And if you put your aperture to 22, then that would mean that your focus area is from 65 centimeters all the way to eternity. So it is not difficult to get everything in focus, but what you cannot do with this camera is to play with the narrow focus and with bokeh and all those gimmicks. It is pretty much that everything is in focus with the super wide. So what do I do with my super wide? I shoot all kind of things. I shoot landscape. I shoot action. Street. I shoot this. I shoot that. And then this is what I shoot. Sometimes even this. And I shoot even these. My speciality with a super wide is street photography in really dark conditions. What I do is that I put in some sensitive film, Ilford HP5, Ilford Delta 3200, and be ready to push it really hard all the way up to 6400 or 12,000. Then I take away the viewfinder. I set the speed to 1/30th of a second, even all the way down to 1/15th of a second, because this camera really allows you to take steady handheld pictures with that slow speeds. Leaf shutter makes it possible. Then I walk on the street and I shoot from the hips. There's no really time to aim with the viewfinder, and with the wide angle lens you typically get something into the frame anyways. And with this method I get these kind of results. There's only one type of photography where I have found super wide to be a bit challenging, and that is taking portraits. And there are two reasons for that, I think. One is that because of this viewfinder, it is very difficult if you get close to your subject to get the focus right. Because you need to estimate it or you need to measure it, and it's really complicated. Then the other reason, of course, is that being a wide angle lens, it renders your subject wider, like your face easily becomes wide, disproportional. And some people think that that is ugly. But if not your face, there's another body part that, according to my understanding, the wider the better. And let me explain. I was taking some landscape photos with my super wide, and I had a strap, as I typically have a strap attached to it. And I had the camera on my shoulder, hanging from the strap. And I was walking around without the dark slide in. And then for some reason unknown to me, my Hasselblad decided to take a wide angle picture of my rear end, the only body part suitable to be photographed with a super wide. I'm not sure if that last segment really improved this video.